Hey everybody, we are going to do equivalent ratios. And before we start, I just want to show you, I pulled up the double number line ratio tables assignment. And I wanted to see the way that Khan Academy explains it. And every now and then, there is a time where I think, I want to do it a different way. Not usually, but this is one of those times. And the way is, and I want you to write it down, cross multiplication. Cross multiplication. It's an incredibly useful skill that is really going to help simplify the way you think about ratios. But anytime you have a fraction equal to a fraction. All right, so what is cross multiplication? It's like this. If we have 7/8 is equal to 10 x's. So 7/8 is equivalent to 10 what's, right? We don't know the denominator that would be there. So what do? You cross multiply. So we take the top over here, we multiply it by the bottom over here. So 7 times x, or 7x. And there's another thing, when in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and beyond, multiplication, there's some different ways to write it. So 7x, you could write 7 times x, but you see how that doesn't look right. You could write it with a dot. You could write 7 in parentheses and x in parentheses. But as you can see here, a lot of times mathematicians, we just write the number and the variable next to each other. And that means multiplication. On the other side, we're multiplying 8 and 10 together. So I'll use the dot for that. Okay, so that's the first part. Multiply the top by the other bottom, and then the other top by the bottom, and cross from it. So then we end up with 7x equals 8 times 10, or 7 times x equals 80. Then the last step in cross multiplication, after you do that multiplying, is you divide by the coefficient of x, which is 7 in this case. And boom. So we get x equals 80 over 7, which is a decimal, but that is the denominator. And so we could divide it and we would find the actual number. But the point is, you're going to see me do some cross multiplication when I do these problems. And the more you do it, it's not a hard concept at the beginning, but it's going to really help make everything easy. Okay, so let's look at this one, for example. We have our double number line and we have our ratio table. And we want to complete the table. So right here on the double number line, they tell us, and so what are we talking about? The number of children that one adult supervises on a field trip. So we see right here that one adult supervises 6 children, because the bottom number line represents children, the top number line represents adult, and so we can see 1 to 6. But with ratios, we want to learn to write our ratios as fractions. So 1 over 6. And then here in our ratio table, we're given 8 adults and we don't know the number of children. Anytime we don't know something in math, we could call it X. All right, a lot of people get confused when we put the letters in math, but it's only a letter until we figure out the number. Okay, so just stay with me. So I'm going to set 1 over 6 equal to, well, now hold on. Is it going to be 8 over x or x over 8? Let's think about what the units are on our 1 and our 6. So if you look back at the double number line, 1 represents adults and 6 represents children. And the 8 in our table represents adults and the unknown is children. So this is good. If children are in the denominator for both, adults are in the numerator for both, we're ready for cross multiplying. So we're going to multiply 1 times x, which is x. And we're going to multiply 8 times 6, which is 48. Look at that, we're done. X equals 48. Thank you, cross multiplication. All right, and then we can do the same thing for the next thing. We're going to do 1 over 6 equals, and remember the 6 represents children. So this time we're given 66 children and we don't know how many adults. So now we set it up and we cross multiply. 6 times x is 6x and 1 times 66 is 66. So now we have 6x equals 66. And what do? We divide. So this is called a one-step equation. And we solve it by dividing. 66 over 6 is 11. So we have that. And we'll talk more about why we divide and all of that. It's because we're undoing multiplication. So let's set up that last one. 1 over 6 equals, this time we have 15 over x, and we cross multiply. X equals what is 6 times 15? That would be 3 times, that's 90. There we go. So I just used that same strategy 3 times. And I got better and better at it. Now, ratios quiz 1, I'm not going to do right now because that is a combination of what I just did, the double number lines, equivalent ratios, and tape diagrams, all put into one assignment. And so before you do quiz 1, go back and click on your scores for all of these and make sure you feel comfortable with all those types of problems. And then you'll do great. But we're going to jump ahead to ratio tables. It's interesting because I just did a ratio table. And guess what? They give us some info up here, 34 pages in 8 hours. So I'm going to write that in a fraction, 34 over 8. And you may be saying, how did you know to put the 34 on top? Well, guess what? It doesn't matter as long as you keep those units matching. So here, they put the same information in the first row, and then 1 hour unknown pages. So we're gonna put 1 hour, right? See, gotta match up, and then unknown number of pages. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna cross multiply. 8x equals 1 times 34 is 34. And we divide by the coefficient of x. And so that is 34 over 8, whatever that equals. See if it'll let me do that. And so let's do one more. So now we have 12 hours, unknown number of pages, but we know it is equal to 8 hours over 34 pages. And 34 times 12, should I have a calculator? 34, and it's equal to 8x. 8x equals 34 times 12. So we'll just see what 34 times 12 is. 408. Okay. So then we have 408 equals 8x. Oh, And what do we do for our last step? We divide both sides by 8. So x equals 408 divided by 8. 408 divided by 8. You're almost there. Oh, I need to simplify. Okay, so what is 34 divided by 8? 34 divided by 8 is 4.25. 4.25, and 408 divided by 8. You know, when I was your age, Google wasn't a calculator, but now it is. There we go. So again, we use cross multiply for the first assignment. We use cross multiplying for the second assignment. I told you it's good. And now even with equivalent ratios, you know what equivalent ratios means. That means a fraction equal to a fraction. And what are we going to do? Probably cross multiply. Select 3 ratios that are equivalent to 8/20. Well, yeah. So we could cross multiply, but let's okay. Let's first think about this as simplifying. So if I simplify 8/20, then what can we divide both of these by? Right away, I know I can divide them both by 2, and I'd get 4/10, right? And I can divide by 2 again. I could have divided by 4, but if you're not sure, divide by whatever you can divide by, and then, you know, just like I did, you can divide again. So 2/5 is equivalent to 8/20. So we know that. And now we want to find all the other ones that are multiples. So 2/5, that means 4/10. That's just 2/5 times 2. If you multiply them both by 2, what do you get? You get 4/10. So that means this one works. We know 1/4 doesn't work. And what about this one? Can we get 10/24? Maybe not. But what about 24/60? Well, now I'm thinking about what can I divide both of those guys by. I know I can divide 24 by 12, and I would get 2. Can I divide 60 by 12? I can, and guess what I would get? I would get 5. So we could have cross multiplied and saw which one's equal, but for this one, I wanted to use my reduced fraction strategy. So there's more than one strategy, and you can use the one that you think will work the best and that you're comfortable with. But definitely practice that cross multiplication. All right, so that's all the assignments for this week. So now you try each one of them one time, and whatever score you get, post in the organizer. If you get 100, then post a green problem and explain how you did it. If you don't get 100, then post a yellow problem or hopefully a red problem so that you can come to class with your questions. Bye, guys.